going to be talking about probability. Probability questions ask you to understand the basic rules of probability, and the more difficult questions ask you to calculate a combination or a permutation for a given scenario, and we'll talk about both those events. Basic probability rules must be memorized, and you need to know how to use your calculator to get around a lot of work in regards to combinations and permutations. Basic probability. If there's one thing to know in probability, it's just the basic probability. Basic probability is determined by taking the outcomes you want divided by the total possible outcomes in a given scenario. So if we're dealing with a die, if we're rolling a die, there are 6 possible outcomes, 1 through 6. If we want to get a 3, there's only one way to get a 3, and so the probability of rolling a 3 would be 1 thing that we want over 6 potential things that can happen. Another example would be if we're trying to draw an ace out of a deck of cards. There are 52 cards, but we only want 4 of those cards, the 4 aces. So the probability there is going to be 4 over 52, or 1/13. Another important thing to understand in probability is and versus or. Or is used in probability to signify addition. If you wanted the probability of rolling a 3 or a 4 on a dice, you would say it's 1/6 plus 1/6, because we can basically get the 3 or the 4, so there are actually 2 potential outcomes we want over 6. So there our probability is going to be 1/3. The word and in probability implies multiply, because we need both events to happen. So if we want the probability of rolling 2 3s in a row, it's going to be the probability of rolling a 3, which is 1/6, times the probability of rolling a 3 again, which is 1/6. So that's going to be 1 over 36. Now, permutation. Permutation problems deal with order. That is the key. Order, the word arrangement, passwords, that's where you're going to use this type of approach. Permutation questions are asking you to arrange different things and calculate the number of arrangements that's possible. So in this example, if we had 6 people that were chosen to stand in line, how many different ways could they stand in line? If we write out all the spots, and then we fill in the options, so in this case there are 6 spots, there's 6 people that could go in the first spot, because all 6 could go there. 5 in the second spot, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now once we have all these, because they all have to happen at once, there's an implied and, we're going to multiply. 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Now you can lay this all out, or you can use your calculator and use the NPR button. You'll get to that button by hitting Math, going over to Probability, and then it's a little bit down, it's NPR. That is going to help you calculate this without doing it by hand. So we're going to type in 6, then NPR, and 6. That will also yield 720. So do it both ways and prove to yourself that they are in fact the same. And remember how to get to that probability button, because it could save you some time on future problems. So let's give this one a shot. 8 people are competing in competition for the title of World's Worst Singer. 5 different prizes are awarded. How many different sets of results are possible? Now, in this example, if one person wins the first prize and another person wins the second prize, that's different than if they won different prizes or if they flip-flopped. Because it's different, this is an arrangement and not just a grouping. So we're going to use the permutation here. So we would set this up by drawing out the 5 locations and then filling in 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4. We can also simply type in 8 NPR 5. Now, combination. Combination questions deal with groupings, where order does not matter. So we're talking about building groups or selecting people where the order of that selection does not matter. For example, if we're picking 3 people from a class of 10 for student council, picking persons A, B, and C is the same as picking persons C, B, and A. In that example, order didn't matter, and so we would use the combination or NCR button in your calculator. So let's walk through how to do this manually, and then I'll show you again how to do it with the calculator. So if we're at a pizza parlor and we have to choose 3 toppings from a list of 12, how many different combinations are possible? So ask yourself first, is pepperoni, sausage, and green pepper any different than green pepper, sausage, and pepperoni? The answer is no, they're the same, and so order does not matter, and so we're going to do a combination. Now we still want to write out the 3 different selections we have and then put the choices we have for each selection. So for the first topping, we could pick 12 different toppings, the second 11, and the third 10. Now if we multiply all those, we get 1320. Now if we were dealing with a permutation, we'd be done. But since order doesn't matter, we need to divide by the number of ways we can arrange those 3 toppings, and that happens to be 3 times 2 times 1. Or 3 permutation 3. Now if we divide 1320 by 6, the answer to this question is 220. Now I know that's difficult, so the easier way to do it is, again, hit Math, go to Probability, pick NCR, and you want to type in 12 NCR3, and that will also yield 220. So I really recommend getting in the habit of using your NPR and NCR buttons when the problem is a straightforward permutation or combination. But be careful. If there are specific things you have to do, especially in a permutation, in terms of certain people have to be at certain ends of a line, or certain letters have to be used at certain points of a password, you can't simply use your calculator. You'll have to draw out the choices and put in, or I should say the available spots you're filling in, and put in the number of choices and multiply out. And now we're going to take a look at some practice questions involving probability, so hopefully you can master this concept.